When I was a student in the high school seminary, we would all gather each evening in the seminary chapel for night prayers, which always included, at the very end, reciting the litany to our Blessed Mother. There in this dimly lit Gothic chapel, moving to the rhythm of the litany, I would often look to Our Lady's shrine on the side altar, where the picture of our Mother Perpetual Help was placed, and she was bathed in a soft light, gazing compassionately upon us as we knelt in prayer. This quiet, motherly image was such a consolation for me personally, being a young man of 14, hundreds of miles away from home. On some nights, Mary truly was for me, as the litany says, a mother most amiable. On other nights, she was my refuge and my comfort. But my favorite title, which wasn't actually in the litany itself, was one which I always added at the very end, quietly: Star of the Sea. The reason why it was my favorite title was perhaps because the alliteration caught my attention: Star of the Sea. Or my love for the stars, being the son of a Navy captain. Perhaps it was her image on this side altar, bathed in the soft light, that seemed to look like a star in this dimly lit chapel as she gazed out over the bobbing waves of students' heads. Perhaps it was that all too familiar sense at times of being lost in my own personal sea of sins or fears, hardships, and loneliness. Whatever the reason, I remember I always quietly prayed at the very end of the litany, Star of the Sea, pray for me. It's just a simple story that we can join to those of people from generations who in the past have addressed Mary with a litany of titles bearing the image of light. Titles like Light of the Despairing, Spotless Sun, Morning Star. However, Star of the Sea has prevailed as the most popular. Once, sailors all over the world were devoted to this title. They sought her protection in dangerous sea voyages. They christened their boats in her honor. They paid homage to her in shrines all along the coast. As a matter of fact, down in the Boston Harbor, there is a little church, Our Lady Star of the Sea, which I'm sure was there because of all those people who worked down by the harbor and went out to sea with their boats. And throughout time, many Christians, envisioning life like a voyage on an open sea, they drew comfort in seeking the guiding light of Mary, Star of the Sea. One of my favorite examples of this would be St. Bernard of Clairvaux's classic meditation. O you who feel yourself tossed by the tempests in the midst of the shoals of this world, turn not away your eyes from the Star of the Sea. If the winds of temptation blow, if tribulations rise up like rocks before you, a look at the star, a sigh towards Mary. If the waves of pride, ambition, calumny, jealousy seek to swallow up your soul, a look toward the star, a prayer to Mary. If anger, avarice, love of sin, trouble of conscience, dread of the judgments of God begin to plunge you into the gulf of sadness, the abyss of despair, attach your heart to Mary. Following her, you cannot wander. if she favor the voyage, you will reach the harbor of safety. What makes this image of Star of the Sea so valuable for us today? Like the faithful in the past, the Church reminds us that we are a pilgrim people who are called to be on a journey of faith. And sometimes in this journey we move ahead, sometimes we fall behind, and sometimes we wander in circles, and sometimes we lose our way. On this voyage, it can often be dark and stormy. And when it gets like that, we watch for stars that indicate the route. Of course, Christ is our true light. He is the sun that shines before us, drawing us toward the horizon of eternity. But when we are in darkness, we can't always see the sun. And sometimes, because we lack hope in believing that Christ will rise again in our hearts, we begin to despair. Mary's role is to shine for us and to show us the way to her Son. As our Star of the Sea, her light is not her own. It comes from her Son Jesus, and it shines on us. She is a mirror. She reflects the light of Christ. She shines on those who are in the night of faith. And when the sun rises again in our hearts like a star, she withdraws into the morning light. When Christ comes into a soul again, after being in the darkness of despair, Mary withdraws so that Christ might increase. If you look closely at the icon of our Mother Perpetual Help, you'll notice on her forehead, her veil has two stars. One star is actually found in the catacombs of Rome, and it identifies her as Mary, the Mother of God. But the other star has 8 points painted on it. In general, when it comes to icons of Mary, stars with 8 points are meant to highlight Mary's specific role in restoring us to wholeness. So the next time you gaze at Our Lady of Perpetual Help, and your eyes happen to fall on her star, the 8-pointed star on her veil, remember that it's there to assure you that following her, you cannot wander. She will lead you through your storm of life to safety. She will restore you to wholeness. Let me conclude with a beautiful quote taken from Pope Benedict's encyclical On Christ's Hope. Life is like a voyage on the sea of history, often dark and stormy. A voyage in which we watch for the stars that indicate the route. The true stars of our life are the people who have lived good lives. They are lights of hope. And who, more than Mary, could be a star of hope for us? With her yes, she opened the door of our world to God Himself. She became the living Ark of the Covenant, in whom God took flesh, became one of us, and pitched His tent among us.